Okay, so your first full day of meditation. Of course, you've done some traveling. Some of you are from different time zones. So you're going to have some adjustments to make. You don't just jump into this practice. It takes a few days to get going. So today what we're going to do is I have some suttas. And I'm going to read some suttas, not for too long a time, and then I want you to watch Bhante's First Day Blues talk. And we've done a little bit of editing, so it's really good. I mean, he really hits everything. And probably some of you have seen it. It's part of the online retreat. So today is Friday. And it is the second day, but the first full day, and thus the first day blues. So what are the blues? It's not a music variety, but it's a state of mind. And what do the blues come from? Well, the Anguttara Nikaya, the Book of Fives, 51, obstructions. Thus have I heard, on one occasion the Blessed One was dwelling at Savatthi in Jeta's Grove, Anathapindika's park. There the Blessed One addressed the bhikkhus. Bhikkhus, Venerable Sir, those bhikkhus replied. The Blessed One said this, Bhikkhus, there are these 5 obstructions, hindrances, encumbrances of the mind, states that weaken wisdom. What 5? Sensual desire is an obstruction, a hindrance, an encumbrance of the mind, a state that weakens wisdom. Ill will is an obstruction, a hindrance, an encumbrance of the mind, a state that weakens wisdom. Dullness and drowsiness is an obstruction, a hindrance, an encumbrance of the mind, a state that weakens wisdom. Restlessness and remorse is an obstruction, a hindrance, an encumbrance of the mind, a state that weakens wisdom. Doubt is an obstruction, a hindrance, an encumbrance of the mind, a state that weakens wisdom. These are the 5 obstructions. Hindrances, encumbrances of the mind, states that weaken wisdom. Bhikkhus, without having abandoned these 5 obstructions or hindrances, encumbrances of the mind, states that weaken wisdom, it is impossible that a bhikkhu with his powerless and feeble wisdom might know his own good, the good of others or the good of both, or realize a superhuman distinction in knowledge and vision worthy of the noble ones. Suppose a river were flowing down from a mountain, traveling a long distance with a swift current, carrying along much flotsam. Then on both of its banks a man would open irrigation channels. In such a case, the current in the middle of the river would be dispersed, spread out, and divided, so that the river would no longer travel a long distance with a swift current carrying along much flotsam. So too, without having abandoned these 5 obstructions, it is impossible that a bhikkhu might realize a superhuman distinction in knowledge and vision worthy of the noble ones. But bhikkhus, having abandoned these 5 obstructions, hindrances, encumbrances of the mind, states that weaken wisdom, it is possible that a bhikkhu with his powerful wisdom might know his own good, the good of others, and the good of both, and realize a superhuman distinction in knowledge and vision worthy of the noble ones. Suppose a river were flowing down from a mountain, traveling a long distance with a swift current, carrying along much flotsam. Then a man would close up the irrigation channels on both of its banks. In such case, the current in the middle of the river would not be dispersed, spread out, and divided, so that the river could travel a long distance with a swift current carrying along much flotsam. So too, having abandoned these 5 obstructions, it is possible that a bhikkhu might realize a superhuman distinction in knowledge and vision worthy of the noble ones. So of course you understand that the river is these irrigation channels. The mind is going off. And so what we're going to do is close off those hindrances, abandon those hindrances. How? 6 R's. We recognize the river is going off. We release it, put down the gate, and re-smile, and return to our object, and continue. So these are these things that are weakening our states of mind. So there's the hindrances. Now there's also effort. How much effort should you apply? Well, from the Samyutta Nikaya 2010, it's called The Most Beautiful Girl of the Land, a bowl of oil. The most beautiful girl of the land is singing. An even larger crowd of people would assemble. Then a man would come along, wishing to live, not wishing to die, wishing for happiness, averse to suffering. Someone would say to him, "Good man, you must carry around this bowl of oil, filled to the brim, between the crowd and the most beautiful girl of the land." A man with a drawn sword will be following right behind you, and whenever you spill even a little bit, right there, he will fell your head. What do you think, bhikkhus? Would that man stop attending to the bowl of oil and out of negligence turn his attention outwards? So clearly, here's a guy, he's got this bowl of hot oil. It's all the way to the top. There's a guy with a sword behind him, and he's got to go from here to there without any oil dropping. Now, this takes an amount of effort that's not too much and not too little. We might try this maybe tomorrow. Everybody gets a bowl of water, but not boiling oil. And you're going to carry this, and we'll do this after lunch. And you're going to carry this and find out how much effort it takes. If you put too much effort, you think, oh, well, I'll really... No, actually you start shaking, and you go, and you're pushing, so you have to back off. You have to actually be relaxed, but not too little effort, or you're going to spill the oil. So this is a simile to how much effort you should put in the meditation. And it's not over much, it's just a firm effort. Another thing about effort, from the Satya Samyutta in the Samyutta Nikaya, clothes. Bhikkhus, if one's clothes or head were ablaze, what should be done about it? Venerable Sir, if one's clothes or head were ablaze, to extinguish one's blazing clothes or head, one should arouse extraordinary desire, make an extraordinary effort, stir up zeal and enthusiasm, be unremitting, and exercise mindfulness and clear comprehension. Bhikkhus, one might look on equanimously at one's blazing clothes or head, paying no attention to them, but so long as one has not made the breakthrough to the Four Noble Truths as they really are, in order to make the breakthrough, one should arouse extraordinary desire, make an extraordinary effort, stir up zeal and enthusiasm, be unremitting, and exercise mindfulness and clear comprehension. What for? The noble truth of suffering, and etc. The noble truth is a way leading to the cessation of suffering. Therefore, bhikkhus, an exertion should be made to understand that this is suffering. This is the origin of suffering. This is the cessation of suffering. This is the path leading to the end of suffering. An exertion should be made to understand this is the way leading to the cessation of suffering. So even if you should put as much effort, balanced, as if your head were on fire, because it's that important that you do this practice, and when you leave here, you've actually changed your mental attitude, and you've eliminated some hindrances. Because if you don't, they'll just plague you for the rest of your life. But, so this is the super effort one. The other one is just, moderate effort. But you're stirring up enthusiasm, interest, wanting to achieve something. And it's okay to want to attain Nibbana. It's not okay to want to, go buy a new car or that's sensual pleasures. But in this case, this is wholesome. This is called chanda. This is a wholesome desire, the desire that leads to cessation of desire. And at the very end of the end of the quiet mind, that last desire to attain Nibbana will be let go. And then there's nothing left. Or is there? I don't know. You'll have to find out. Bhikkhus, there are huge trees with tiny seeds and huge bodies, encirclers of other trees. And the trees which they encircle become bent, twisted, and split. What are those huge trees with tiny seeds and huge bodies? The asata, the banyan, the palaka, the udumbara, the kachaka, and the kapitana. These are those huge trees with tiny seeds and huge bodies, encirclers of other trees. And the trees which they encircle become bent, twisted, and split. So too, bhikkhus, when some clansman here has left behind sensual pleasures and gone forth from the household life into homelessness, he becomes bent, twisted, and split because of those same sensual pleasures, or because of others worse than them. These five bhikkhus are obstructions, hindrances, encirclers of the mind, weakeners of wisdom. What five? Sensual desire is an obstruction, a hindrance encircling the mind, a weakener of wisdom. Ill will, sloth and torpor, restlessness and remorse. Doubt is an obstruction, a weakener of wisdom. These are the five obstructions, hindrances, encirclers of the mind, weakeners of wisdom. Now you heard that in the first sutta, and many times suttas repeat kind of the same themes. But it goes on to say, these 7 factors of enlightenment, bhikkhus, are non-obstructions, non-hindrances, non-encirclers of the mind. When developed and cultivated, they lead to the realization of the fruit of true knowledge and liberation. What 7? The enlightenment factor of mindfulness is a non-obstruction. The enlightenment factor of investigation of states. The enlightenment factor of energy. The enlightenment factor of joy. The enlightenment factor of tranquility. The enlightenment factor of collectedness. The enlightenment factor of equanimity is a non-obstruction. These 7 factors of enlightenment are non-obstructions, non-hindrances, non-encirclers of the mind. When developed and cultivated, they lead to the realization of the fruit of true knowledge and liberation. So you have the hindrances, and now you have on the other side these 7 enlightenment factors, which all will be developed through the meditation. And they'll all be developed automatically when you stay on your object of meditation. You don't have to worry about balancing this factor and that factor. As long as you stay on the object of meditation, you siksar, when things arise, release, let go, then all of those will develop. And you'll hear more about those later. If a mortal desires sensual pleasure and their desire succeeds, they definitely become elated, having got what they want. But for that person in the throes of pleasure aroused by desire, if those pleasures fade, it hurts like an arrow's strike. One who, being mindful, avoids sensual pleasures, like sidestepping a snake's head, transcends attachment to the world. There are many objects of sensual desire: fields, lands, and gold, cattle and horses, slaves and servants, women and relatives, iPhones and Android. When a man lusts over these, The weak overpower him, and adversities crush him. Suffering follows him like water in a leaky boat. That's why a person ever mindful should avoid sensual pleasures, give them up, and cross the flood as a bailed out boat reaches the far shore. And again, it's like the river. All your energy is being drawn off, and it's not being channeled into very strong, powerful, collected, tranquil energy. That's what the sensual pleasures do. And I'm reading, it's very important that Bhante Vimalaramsi always taught us to go to the suttas. Don't so much as go off and just do talks about things. Read the Buddha's words, because he knew what he was talking about. If somebody should give a talk, the first person should be the Buddha. The second person should be maybe his chief disciple, Sariputta. The third person should be, and on down the line. But if we can find out what the Buddha said, we want to listen to that. And people, when they listen to the Buddha's words, many people at that time attained Nibbana when they listened to the words. Now, he knew what they needed to hear. But these days, these words can be very powerful. When you hear them, things will just click, and you might understand something. And the way the suttas are set up is that they're set up for recitation. You'll hear the repeating. Like there was a lot of ... dots in one of the suttas, and I kind of stumbled. It's because I had to actually fill it all in, because the translator had taken away the repeating. But the repeating is important when you're reciting something. It helps you to remember what it says. And one of the suttas last night said you should recite and memorize. And when you recite and memorize things, you get them in your mind, and you understand them better. And Bhante would keep asking people, who wants to memorize, the 6 sets of 6, or 111, the Anupada Sutta? And people would go, I don't know. But there were a couple that did. And they talked about, it really helps. Because when I bring that sutta up, I understand it. I see my own practice, and I reflect back to the sutta. So anyway, that's why we like to read from the suttas, and we don't just go off and give you, in a sense, our opinion. So this is from Majjhima Nikaya 75, the Magandaya Sutta. Suppose there was a person affected by leprosy, with sores and blisters on their limbs, being devoured by worms, scratching with their nails at the opening of their wounds. They'd cauterize their body over a pit of glowing coals. Their friends and colleagues, relatives and kin would get a field surgeon to treat them. The field surgeon would make a medicine for them, and by using that, they'd be cured of leprosy. They'd be healthy, happy, autonomous, master of themselves, able to go where they wanted. Then they'd see another person affected by leprosy with sores and blisters on their limbs, being devoured by worms, scratching with their nails at the opening of their wounds, cauterizing their body over a pit of glowing coals. What do you think, Magandaya? Would that person envy that other person affected by leprosy for their pit of glowing coals or for taking medicine? No, Master Gautama. Why is that? Because you need to take medicine only when there's a disease. When there's no disease, there's no need for medicine. In the same way, Magandaya, when I was still a layperson, I used to entertain myself with sights, sounds, smells, tastes, touch, known by the body, that are likable, desirable, agreeable, pleasant, sensual, and arousing. Sometime later, having truly understood the origin, the ending, the gratification, the drawback and escape of sensual pleasures, and having given up craving and dispelled passion for sensual pleasures, I live rid of thirst. My mind is peaceful inside. I see other sentient beings who are not free from sensual pleasures, being consumed by craving for sensual pleasures, burning with passion for sensual pleasures, indulging in sensual pleasures. I don't envy them, nor do I hope to enjoy that. Why is that? Because there is satisfaction that is apart from sensual pleasures and unskillful qualities, which even achieves the level of heavenly pleasure. Enjoying that satisfaction, I don't envy what is inferior, nor do I hope to enjoy it. Suppose there was a person affected by leprosy with sores and blisters on their limbs, being devoured by worms, scratching with their nails at the opening of their wounds. They'd cauterize their body over a pit of glowing coals. Their friends and colleagues, relatives and kin would get a field surgeon to treat them. The field surgeon would make medicine for them, and by using that, they'd be cured of leprosy. They'd be healthy, happy, autonomous, master of themselves, able to go where they wanted. Then two strong men would grab them by the arms and drag them towards a pit of glowing coals. What do you think, Magandaya? Wouldn't that person writhe and struggle to and fro? Yes, Master Gotama. Why is that? Because that fire is really painful to touch, fiercely burning and scorching. What do you think, Magandaya? Is it only now that the fire is really painful to touch, fiercely burning and scorching, or was it painful previously as well? That fire is painful now, and it was also painful previously. That person was affected by leprosy with sores and blisters on their limbs, being devoured by worms, scratching their nails, opening of their wounds. Their sense faculties were impaired. So even though the fire was actually painful to touch, they had a distorted perception that it was pleasant. In the same way, the sensual pleasures of the past, future and present, are painful to touch, fiercely burning and scorching. These sentient beings who are not free from sensual pleasures, being consumed by craving for sensual pleasures, burning with passion for sensual pleasures, having impaired sense faculties. So even though sensual pleasures are actually painful to touch, they have a distorted perception that they are pleasant. So what happens when all of the hindrances are let go of? That means you're not craving for things, you're not angry at things, you don't have doubt, you don't have restlessness, you don't have sloth and torpor. What is that kind of a mind? It's a mind that is in jhana. It's a mind that is a heavenly mind. It is free from hindrance. It's much more pleasant that that mind's constantly craving this and that. It's a much higher happiness. It's not a mind that craves this, gets it, and then 5 minutes later, that pleasure disappears. Do you know that every time you experience pleasure, that a painful feeling arises right after that? Oh, it left. If you watch very carefully, you can see that, like you're eating some ice cream, there's that, oh, that's good. And then, oh, I need more. Or it's gone. It disappeared. So you get some more. So it's just constant. It doesn't stop. So what do we do about this? We follow the 5 precepts. The precept to refrain from destroying life, precept to refrain from taking what is not given, the precept to refrain from sexual misconduct, precept from lying and harsh speech, the precept from drugs, which lead to carelessness. This is the Panchasila, the 5 precepts, 5 faultless gifts. There are these 5 gifts, 5 great gifts, original, long-standing, traditional, ancient, unadulterated from the beginning, that are not open to suspicion, will never be open to suspicion, and are unfaulted by knowledgeable contemplatives and Brahmins. Which 5? There is the case where a disciple of the Noble Ones, abandoning the taking of life, abstains from taking life. In doing so, he gives freedom from danger, freedom from animosity, freedom from oppression to limitless numbers of beings. In giving freedom from danger, freedom from animosity, freedom from oppression to limitless numbers of beings, he gains a share in limitless freedom from danger, freedom from animosity, and freedom from oppression. This is the first gift, the first great gift, original, long-standing, traditional, ancient, and unadulterated. That is not open to suspicion, will never be open to suspicion, and is unfaulted by knowledgeable contemplatives and Brahmins. Furthermore, abandoning taking what is not given, or stealing, the disciple of the Noble Ones abstains from taking what is not given. In doing so, he gives freedom from danger, freedom from animosity, freedom from oppression to limitless numbers of beings. In giving freedom from danger, freedom from animosity, freedom from oppression to limitless numbers of beings, he gains a share in limitless freedom from danger, freedom from animosity, and freedom from oppression. This is the second gift. Furthermore, abandoning illicit sex, the disciple of the Noble Ones abstains from illicit sex. In doing so, he gives freedom from danger, and so on. This is the third gift. Furthermore, abandoning lying, the disciple of the Noble Ones abstains from lying. In doing so, he gives freedom from danger, freedom from animosity, and so on. That is the fourth gift. Furthermore, abandoning the use of intoxicants, the disciple of the Noble Ones abstains from taking intoxicants. In doing so, he gives freedom from danger, freedom from animosity, freedom from oppression to limitless numbers of beings. In giving freedom from danger, freedom from animosity, freedom from oppression to limitless numbers of beings, he gains a share in limitless freedom from danger, freedom from animosity, and freedom from oppression. This is the fifth gift, the fifth great gift, original, long-standing, traditional, ancient, unadulterated from the beginning, that is not open to suspicion, will never be open to suspicion, and is unfaulted by knowledgeable and contemplatives and Brahmins. So following the 5 precepts, it makes you friendly to all beings. Knowing that you're following 5 precepts, know that there's no danger. They know that you're not going to lie, that you'll always tell the truth. They know that that you will never take anything from them. They know that you're going to be trustworthy. They know that you're not going to indulge in intoxicants and from that break all of the other precepts. So when you follow that, and people know that, even if people don't know that, it starts to kind of radiate. You kind of start to develop an attitude where people trust you. It just kind of starts to happen. And this then goes to your meditation, and your meditation becomes easy. So one more here. So this is about the 6 R's. Well, the first one from the Digha Nikaya 2. How does jhana arise? And when he knows that these 5 hindrances have left him, gladness arises in him. From gladness comes delight. From delight in mind, his body is tranquilized. With a tranquil body, he feels joy. Now, the 6 R's, people say, well, where did you get that from? So in the Anapanasati Sutta, and this one here actually is in the Samyutta Nikaya 54.1-1. It's called One Thing. He trains thus: I shall breathe in, experiencing the mental formation. He trains thus: I shall breathe out, experiencing the mental formation. He trains thus: I shall breathe in, tranquilizing the mental formation. He trains thus: I shall breathe out, tranquilizing the mental formation. He trains thus, I shall breathe in, experiencing the mind. He trains thus, I shall breathe out, experiencing the mind. He trains thus, I shall breathe in, gladdening the mind. He trains thus, I shall breathe out, gladdening the mind. He trains thus, I shall breathe in, concentrating the mind. He trains thus, I shall breathe out, concentrating the mind. He trains thus, I shall breathe in, liberating the mind. He trains thus, I shall breathe out, liberating the mind. So we just went through all the jhana factors that are there. And when it says, I shall breathe in, gladdening the mind, for example, it means that while you're watching the breath, if you're doing breath, you'll notice joy arises. You're not making the joy happening. You're not going, come on, joy, come on, let me get, and you see some joy and then you put your mind on it. No, it means that when you are doing the breath meditation, if joy arises, you notice it. You're aware of it. You're aware of all these factors, and you let them go. So the proof of the 6 R's is here. It's called the Samadhi Sutta, and Gutra 5.27. Students being alert, and this is the words from the sutta. Students being alert and mindful, develop concentration that is measureless. And I'll say collectedness that is measureless. When alert and mindful, you develop collectedness that is measureless. The knowledge arises that is personally yours. This collectedness is peaceful and sublimed, gained by full tranquilization and attained to unification. It is not reined in and checked by forcefully suppressing the defilements. That's the words here. I didn't put that in there. That's in the sutta. And, many other people say, well, this is just your opinion, that we're suppressing defilements. Well, it says right here, the Buddha said, don't do that. Full tranquilization, relaxing the mental formations, the states of mind. What are those? The thoughts. And attain to unification, and that's developing, staying on the object of meditation, the collected mind. And that balance. You're collected, you're on the object, you're relaxing anything that takes you away from that. And samadhi means tranquil wisdom. And that's what we're doing, tranquil wisdom. Sama is tranquil, and D is also understood as another word in Pali for wisdom. And that's all the suttas that I have. And what I'm going to do now is play Bhante's video on the first day blues. And you're going to hear more about what you may have experienced today. Any questions about any of this before I get this going? It's pretty clear. What's that? Yeah, sure. Yeah, I run across these things, and I've read through all of the books, and I have a page on the website that's getting longer and longer and longer, and I find these gems, and I put them in there. And so when somebody says, well, yeah, that's not in the suttas, I say, oh, really? Let's do a search. Control F. Look for relaxed step. And then here's all the suttas that has that and what it says. So I've kind of developed this gigantic list of stuff about anything that you can imagine, from the cosmic realms to, the 6 R's. So, okay. Yeah.
What page is that?
It's called Sutta References, and if you go to the top, it's part of, I think there's a miscellaneous menu on the right. It's a page that you can just pull down, you'll see it.